I want to talk about Ron DeSantis, the potential 2024 president of the United States. He's running for president. He's right now, though, in quite of a pickle. And the pickle is that he's Ron DeSantis, and he's unlikable, and no one likes him. That's the main problem that he's running into. If you look at the polling numbers, his situation is not improving. He seems to be continuously declining. I wonder if we can get the RCP polling average up quick. Ron DeSantis. I like to see how he's doing. Not favorable, unfavorable, like primary. Here we go. Yeah, no, I mean, he had a high probably around February and March of the year. He waited too long to announce. He finally announced, but it had already gone down. Trump is higher than ever. Many Republicans are siding with Trump because he believes Trump is being persecuted more than ever. You know, Trump is being dragged through the mud by the corrupt FBI, et cetera, et cetera. So people feel like, you know, they're having to...
got a tier 1 subscription. Dicks.
Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. I really appreciate it. There's this rally around the flag effect that's happening around Trump, especially as Trump heightens his attacks against Ron DeSantis, his main challenger, right? So DeSantis is in a downward trend. It's causing a dip in fundraising. Many of his donors are worried that he's not going to be able to counter Trump, and they don't really want to, you know, flush their money down the toilet. They don't want to do that. And so his situation is quite perilous. And so in response, Ron DeSantis has decided that he's going to go a hard right turn. You know, he started this whole campaign talking about the woke mind virus and all that. You know, very vague terminology. What is the woke mind virus? What is wokeness? Doesn't really matter. He's talking about the woke mind virus, but this rhetoric has escalated and escalated as he's taken a more and more right-wing turn, saying that he wants to ban trans people from serving in the military. Not that, oh, it's gonna be like this on the documentation. We're going to ban them from serving. And his justification for it, when asked by CNN reporter Jake Tapper, was, well, we don't want it to be unfair in women's sports. These issues are not related. A trans person has the same ability to press a button and deploy a drone, or to manage logistics, or you know, be an engineer as anyone else. And these are the majority of the jobs in the military. I think most people think that your average soldier is like a Navy SEAL or a Marine. That's not the case. For every soldier, there are people who support them logistically, support them in command, support them with air power, engineers, the whole 9 yards. Now, even janitors. Point is, Donald Trump is trouncing Ron DeSantis, and so Ron DeSantis has decided he's going to go even further to the right in order to try to win over support. And his recent marketing gimmick, his most recent marketing gimmick is probably the stupidest. DeSantis has announced that he's going to launch an inquiry into Bud Light's parent company, Anheuser-Busch, over their partnership with a trans influencer, Dylan Mulvaney. He is going to take the power of the legal office of Florida, and he's going to direct it at Bud Light because they dared to associate with a trans person. Now, I don't care what your perspective is on this. You could be 100% a fan of Dylan Mulvaney. You love their fashion tips. You could not really be a fan of Dylan Mulvaney, but you like queer representation. You could not like Dylan Mulvaney. You could even not like that Dylan Mulvaney got a can, which, by the way, she got a can. A single can of Bud Light with her face on it that was given to her. I think a lot of people think that there was like a promotion where they put her face on like thousands upon thousands of cans that were shipped around the country. No, she got a single can given to her so she could film a TikTok on her channel to try to advertise to a younger audience, because her audience is pretty young. They'd be like, hey, drink beer, we're good, it's Pride Month. It was just a marketing gimmick. That's all it was. And so now Ron DeSantis is going after them with the full force of the Florida's gubernatorial office for just associating with a trans person, daring to market to queer people. Let's read the article. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced Thursday that he is directing his state government to launch an inquiry into Bud Light's parent company, AB InBev, Anheuser-Busch, over its partnership with transgender social media influencer Dylan Mulvaney. DeSantis, who's running for the GOP's presidential nomination, accused the beverage company of not following its fiduciary. Yeah, I can never pronounce it. See, if you're new here, this is a trend on my channel. Fiduciary. Fiduciary. Its duty to shareholders and pensioners by collaborating with Mulvaney. When you start pursuing a political agenda at the expense of your shareholders, that's not impacting very wealthy people. That's not just impacting very wealthy people. It impacts hardworking people who were police officers, firefighters, and teachers in the term of pensions. He continued, so we're going to be launching an inquiry about Bud Light and InBev, and it could be something that leads to a derivative lawsuit filed on behalf of shareholders of the Florida Pension Fund, because at the end of the day, there's got to be penalties when you put business aside to focus on your social agenda at the expense of hardworking people. DeSantis said Florida had $53 million worth of stock in Florida Pensions Fund of about $180 billion. The governor claimed that shareholders were affected after sales of Bud Light declined as a result of conservative backlash to the beer brand after it worked with Mulvaney. As for a response, Anheuser-Busch spokesperson told NBC News, Anheuser-Busch takes our responsibility to our shareholders, employees, distributors, and customers seriously. We are focused on driving long-term sustainable growth for them by optimizing our business and providing competitor products with consumers with products to enjoy for every occasion. DeSantis' office pointed to a letter he posted on Twitter on Friday morning that said he sent the interim executive director at the State Board of Administration calling for the inquiry. It appears to me that Anheuser-Busch may have breached legal duties owed to its shareholders and that a shareholder action may be appropriate and necessary. To protect SBA and the retirees of Florida from losses attributed to its disregard of those duties, all options are on the table. Okay. The reason why Anheuser-Busch did this marketing gimmick was because it was Pride Month and they wanted to have an ad on one person's social media page. Can we remember that for a point? No matter all the outrage that was produced because of this marketing gimmick, you know, it made me feel originally that Dylan Mulvaney's face must have been on billboards. It must have been on beer cans across America. It must have been on planes. It must have been in booklets. It must have been everywhere. But no, they were given one beer by Anheuser-Busch to use in a TikTok on their channel saying, I'm Dylan Mulvaney and I love makeup and beer. And that was going to be that's the ad. That's it. That was the ad. They were trying to advertise to a community that they wanted to see buy more beer because they're a company. That was their purpose of the ad. That is something that you're not going to win a lawsuit over. You are not going to win this lawsuit. You are not going to get a judge to look at that and say, wow, oh my God, this was horrible negligence to shareholders. They're going to be able to make a pretty clear argument as to why they did it, why they thought it would be profitable, and why they thought they could, use this to grow their market share by making this community of fashion lovers, of makeup lovers, and queer people buy more beer. That's going to be their pitch. That they were not putting it on billboards across America, that their ad with Dylan Mulvaney probably cost them, what, $10,000 to buy out Dylan Mulvaney to do the ad, and maybe like $100 to like print a different type of beer can. If that. It's going to be very easy for them to make this argument to court. I think there's a good chance this doesn't even get to court. This is Ron DeSantis taking his office to harass a company because they associated with a trans person, and associating with a trans person publicly does not fall within the ideological guidelines of Ron DeSantis, of his ideological paradigm. It's simple as that. I've heard some people say, no, this is an issue about grooming, that Dylan Mulvaney was grooming people. And this was a problem because think of the children. That's the one response when I said this on Twitter. I saw somebody send me in DMs. They said, Dylan, won't you think of the children? It was a beer ad for beer. Children can't buy beer. Okay, I understand that it might have been a lot of rednecks in my DMs, okay? And I say that lovingly. A lot of rednecks in my DMs that maybe you're like, you sip your beer and you give it to your 5-year-old and you're like, yep, that's what it is. I remember when I was a kid, I was 13, my daddy gave me my first sip of beer. I hated it. I spit it out. And I've hated beer ever since.
Blue Rider of Neptune gave D. Leary a Tier 1 subscription. God, I hate pudding fingers so fudging much. Not only is he wasn't our taxpayers' money on dumb political stunts like this, he also just scaring away.
He's also just scaring away business. That's true. And the thing that's funny about this is he's saying that he's doing this inquiry and possibly evolving it into a lawsuit to protect the pensioners of Florida. But then he takes the tax dollars of Florida pensioners and then spends it on an inquiry that's not going to go anywhere. There's not going to be some decision where Anheuser-Busch has to pay the state of Florida $20 million because they, did an ad with a trans person? I understand the laws in Florida work a little differently than the laws in Maryland, my home state. You know, they've got a little bit different legislation, but the laws aren't that out of control. That isn't going to slide. This is simply a marketing gimmick. They're harassing this company so Ron DeSantis can get a slight edge next to Donald Trump. That he can say, hey, look at me. I'm fighting them on the beaches. I'm fighting them on the streets. I'm fighting them in the trenches. I'm fighting the trans people everywhere that I find them. If he can make that argument, then he thinks maybe he can win over some of Donald Trump's base. Maybe he can win over some of the more diehard Republicans over to his side. Is it going to work? No. On both levels. It's not going to lead to a lawsuit that gets them
computer and do it.
They're ridiculous. Hey, thank you so much for the raid of 15. Thank you, Speaks. I really appreciate it. Welcome on in. Point is, let's wrap this up. The lawsuit isn't going to go anywhere. They're not going to sue them and make millions of dollars. It's going to be very easy for Anheuser-Busch to explain this to a judge. That's the first thing. I don't even necessarily think it's going to evolve into a lawsuit. I think there's a good chance it just dies at inquiry. This is just harassing them. And secondly, this is not going to help him win the Republican primary. Ron DeSantis is going to get on the debate stage with Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis is going to try to be aggressive. He's going to actually, no. I don't think he's going to be aggressive on the debate stage. I think he's going to try to avoid Trump, but then Trump's going to hammer him, and then he's going to fall apart. And then that's going to be the end of the Ron DeSantis campaign. When that first primary happens, he's going to fail, and from then on, it's over. His only bet is to front load in Iowa and then try to use the momentum to take New Hampshire and then try to bring it into some victory down the line. And we saw Pete Buttigieg try to do that. And even if he does win in Iowa, like Pete Buttigieg did, what happened to Pete Buttigieg? Didn't win in New Hampshire. Bernie won in New Hampshire. And then Bernie won in Nevada too. Pete Buttigieg was unable to bring out a victory. So, point is, this is going to be a failure on every front from Ron DeSantis, on top of being incredibly embarrassing and kind of pathetic.